I actually debated on making this list. At the time of writing this, I've only done 19 admirable animations, and one of them was a movie that doesn't count, and another one covers an entire anime series, which also doesn't count. Yeah, to add to the rules, I have to have reviewed an episode in depth for it to count. And then I realized I reviewed 10 here, and 79 here. So yeah, there's going to be several episodes on this list that have migrated from other lists, which is another reason I debated doing this list. I don't exactly want to repeat a lot of what I already said. Then I realized that several of these episodes I could easily talk more in depth than I did in the actual review. When I did these admirable animations on schedule, there seemed to be a lack of passion here and there, and I don't plan on letting that happen again. Yeah, I can summon up as much anger as I want on cue, but passion is a little bit different. Most of the episodes that I've chosen to review as admirable animations, I've had a personal relationship with, you might say. That being said, this list is more for posterity than genuinely surprising anyone. So, let's count down a few awesome things.
There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill.
Yeah, remember when I said that I didn't review certain things with as much passion as other things, like literally 10 seconds ago? Sometimes it's just because I was trying to meet my schedule. Other times it was because I was sick, like when I was reviewing Flight to the Finish.
Got the moves, got the mojo. No harder working pony around.
Yup, it's a Friendship is Magic episode that lines up with some of the best cartoon episodes that I've ever seen. And spoilers, it's not going to be the last one on this list. As good as Flight to the Finish is, it's not my favorite episode. But it's in my top 3 because it's just that good of an episode. Starting with Ponyville Confidential, mentioning pretty much any episode of the show will cause a shitstorm of whether the episode is good or not. So I'm going to say right now that on this list, I'm not going to be remotely apologetic for my opinions. So, since I was sick during the actual review, I guess it's now time to give the episode the overview that it truly deserves. Talking about disability, or pretty much any adult subject, risks the potential to backfire. Horribly. You need to be seriously brave to even attempt to tackle it, unless you're on a quest to piss off as many people as possible, have immunity from the network, and or don't care about any criticism whatsoever. I'd say that they did a good job here, as my opinion on this episode has only grown since I first seen it. And it's one of the only 3 episodes that I've given a platinum rating. And spoilers, one of those 3 ain't on this list. While it didn't start focusing on this issue until halfway through, and this episode would probably be higher if it did, it gave the story everything it needed. From the storyboard shown last whatever, I was actually surprised that they were going to go through with this. I mean, there probably wasn't much of a risk of truly pissing people off like a couple of my later choices down the list, but it was still pretty brave of them, and it does show the show's growth as a whole, and I can only hope that it takes more chances as it continues to grow. I don't think that I talked much about the song when I reviewed the episode, mostly because it was the first song of the season, and now that we're halfway through, I can definitely say that Hearts as Strong as Horses is one of the better ones. Like the episode, it just kept growing on me. I came back to it after a while, and it actually surprised me to how good it sounded. I still don't think that it's one of the show's best, but that's more of a test to Daniel Ingram than anything else. I suppose that I should also explain what a platinum rating actually means before I move on. A lot of people don't seem to understand what it is. A platinum rating does not mean the episode is better than a gold. It means it does something unique. It moves my emotions in a good way. You know, any writer or any show can entertain. I mean, any show that actually deserves to live can entertain. But it takes some serious talent to actually make you feel something for almost the entire experience. Not bad for a first effort. Not bad in the slightest.
There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill.
I'll never forget him, but he forgot me a long, long time ago.
Speaking of emotion, my god, Jurassic Bark is just awesome. It gets everything right where Life of Brian got everything wrong. Do they use similar tactics? Yeah, but those tactics are tools, and what they do depends on how you use them. You know, a kitchen knife can be used to cut celery, or it could be used to cut fingers. Life of Brian wanted to draw in a shit ton of views and ratings and bring relevance to a show on life support. All Jurassic Bark wanted to do was tell an emotional story, and maybe win an Emmy, but mostly tell a story. That's because Futurama has something that the modern Family Guy and the modern Simpsons don't. It has dignity. I mean, I'm sure the Futurama has a few duds. Any show that doesn't die young will inevitably have them. But I'm positive that Jurassic Bark won't be the last time I talk about Futurama. I keep getting requests for Life of the Friarish, so we'll check that one out. But we're talking about this episode. I know this analogy doesn't make much sense, but Life of Brian made me mourn my own dog even more, but Jurassic Bark made me want to get a new dog. Seymour had a full personality and could easily be identified with, unlike an empty shell for you to merely project your emotions onto, and therein lies the main difference. Seymour is actually a character, and it's a testament to the writing to how they put so much personality into him in 22 minutes. I'm going to say that I absolutely hate the trope Diabolus Ex Machina, in which something happens to stop the characters from having a happy ending. It's pretty much a rocks fall, everyone dies kind of scenario in its purest form, and it's most commonly done as a cheap emotional ploy. This is one of the very few times that I've actually seen it work. It's not some cosmic forces, bad luck, or idiotic decisions that keep our heroes from having their happy ending. While it's obviously not the best choice in the world, Fry quite clearly reaches the ending decision organically, and it does not seem to be out of character in any way whatsoever. It's using the emotional torque without abusing it. They want to tell you a sad story, they do it exceptionally well, and they don't break character or bend reality to do it. I have no idea why that last requirement is so often forgotten by writers who try to tug at your heartstrings. If your characters are strong enough, and you've told the tale well enough, you shouldn't have to resort to such underhanded tactics.
There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill. Kitty, that dog saved my life!
I was wrong, Bunny. Not all dogs are bad.
By all accounts, this episode shouldn't even exist. I mean, I know the censors were a lot more lax back in the 90s and early 2000s, but to make an episode that shows domestic violence in such a realistic manner is just hard to wrap my head around. And on top of the outright stated adult subjects in this episode like domestic violence and prejudice, there were the things hinted at, like lesbianism and prostitution. And when I say hint, I mean they don't remotely try to hide it, they just don't point to it. That being said, I'm extremely glad that this episode exists. Like, it's the biggest rebuttal to the whole target audience argument that exists, along with what kids can or can't handle. I mean, this is pretty much an animated gangster movie for kids. I think that I respect this episode more than I actually like it. That's not a bad thing because I respect it a lot. In fact, I respect it more than any other episode on this particular list. It's just that this episode is kinda uncomfortable to watch at points, and the constant reds are tiring on the eyes. But it has an extremely heartwarming payoff, and it deals with its adult subjects in not only a realistic manner, but a respectful manner. You wonder how this stuff got greenlit, but then you remember that it comes from a show with some of the best writing that you've ever seen. Looking back, I don't doubt that they could have pulled this off. Even their dud isn't really that bad. Like I said in my review of that episode, Ball Revenge is pretty much on the line of what dictates an animated atrocity. It's episodes like this that admirable animation was designed for. I mean, I can keep showing you tear-jerking and heartwarming episodes, but something that takes risks like this and knows how to have them pay off is, well, truly admirable. I can't think of any other cartoon episode that does something like this, and does it well. It's true that I doubt that writers could get away with something like this today without hiding it behind a shit ton of metaphors, but maybe that's for the better. The more rare a gem is, the more truly valuable it is.
There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill.
Stranger who became a brother, aided us in our time of need and made a difference.
Yeah, reason one to why I debated making this list. Let's start with the fact that this was on another list, so I gotta find a totally new way to talk about it. And the plot is actually pretty straightforward. And there was the fact that it wasn't number one on that particular list, and my opinions haven't changed at all. Except for the fact that I've recently watched a new Samurai Jack episode that would have made that list if I watched it at the time. But besides that, my opinions haven't changed. So let's talk about Jack and the Spartans. Again, in a different way. Well, considering that this episode is the closest thing to a finale that the show has, I kinda consider it as a finale to the show. I mean, it's better than considering Jack and the Baby as a finale. Not that that episode is bad per se, it's just that that episode is not a finale in any sense of the word. It's not big, grand, tear-jerking, and it ends on what could be considered a cliffhanger. So yeah, let's just call this episode the finale. As a finale, it does sort of give the story of Samurai Jack some closure. I mean, it's not the ideal end, but at least it's an end. It's definitely better than leaving the audience hanging for 10 years. I mean, could you imagine? That would be like totally ridiculous. It's also the kind of ending that gives you hope that the story isn't quite over yet, and that one day the hero will arise again and actually win the battle. I guess what I'm trying to say is that Jack and the Baby wasn't really the best episode to end on. I mean, Jack vs. Aku was a way better episode to end on. Or pretty much any of the other Season 4 episodes. Tale of X9 doesn't exactly wrap anything up, but it's a great and tear-jerking story. Mr. Tartar Sauce, I know that you didn't want to keep the series going on forever. I understand that. I could even understand that you were tired of it. But could you at least give us the courtesy of actually, finishing what you started before moving on? I mean, I'd prefer a bad ending or things left totally ambiguous to, not ending the damn thing at all. I mean, the show didn't get canned in the middle of the season or anything. I could even understand that. Mr. Tartar Sauce, why you gotta leave us hanging, man?
There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill.
So now I've got to talk about an episode that I already talked about twice before in a new way. This should be fun. I mean, you guys seem to be really interested in seeing me talk about this episode because I keep getting asked to do a commentary on my review of it. I don't exactly see why. It's not that the review is bad, it's just a typical review of mine. I mean, I didn't add anything new to the discussion like I did with my Daring Don't review, or my Magical Mystery Cure review, or even my Rarity Takes Manhattan review. What did I say about this episode in my actual review? That it's pretty much awesome. That's pretty much what everyone says about this episode, because it is awesome. It's a very awesome episode, and it's definitely one of the episodes you should check out if you're just getting into the show. But that's a different video entirely. Right now, we're talking about why Hurricane Fluttershy is awesome, without directly saying that Hurricane Fluttershy is awesome. I can't even really talk about my social anxiety problems, because I did that in my last list in which Hurricane Fluttershy was featured in. And one of my pet peeves is being forced to repeat myself, even on my own behalf. Yeah, that fact will probably add to the discussion on one of my more recent videos, since you've probably found out why I've got social anxiety. As such, this episode was bound to resonate with me in a very personal way. Is the story a little overdone? Sure, but there are two ways to achieve greatness. You can either do something that no one has ever done before, and create something avant-garde, or you can do something that everyone has done, and do it better than anyone else, becoming a master of your craft. And Hurricane Fluttershy is firmly located in the latter category. I mean, I don't think I've seen anyone do a better take of social anxiety, except maybe Amy Keating-Rogers and Philly Vanilli, but that episode was marred by other problems. And we're not talking about that episode here. We're talking about this episode in an entirely new way that I haven't done twice before. I think. There has to be something I could say about this particular episode that I haven't said before. Something that no one has said before. Something that will bring a new era of awareness into this particular episode. That will help everyone see it in a new light. Think. Well, there is one thing I could say about this episode that I haven't said about this episode before. It's not my favorite episode anymore.
There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill. They love seeing me, the real Pinkie. Show them a time of their life.
When I said in my first impression Steven Art Journal that this episode was in my top 3, I wasn't kidding. I did not make this decision lightly. Like, at all. Let me just say right now that this episode isn't on the list or my favorite episode because it's a breath of fresh air to have Pinkie Pie characterized so well. I said in my actual review that I don't give out accolades for an episode doing what it's supposed to do. And I'm not here to talk about where Pinkie's character is going to go. If certain trends continue, I will unfortunately have plenty of other opportunities to talk about it. You know, a lot of bronies said that they never imagined themselves watching a show from the My Little Pony brand. And let's just say that having someone like Weird Al be a part of it goes beyond the realm of plausibility. I mean, it's extremely hard for me to wrap my head around the events that led from the series in its darkest point to where we are now. You know, having an episode guest starring Weird Al. I mean, this isn't the first cartoon he's guest starred in. In fact, he's guest starred in quite a few shows from my childhood. I'm no stranger to Weird Al's music. Almost all of his songs are amazing, like Albuquerque and Don't Download the Song. The latter is in like my top 20 songs of all time. Now, none of the songs in this episode were written by Weird Al, but I honestly wouldn't be able to tell you that if I didn't look it up myself. Some people have said that I have a bias towards musical episodes, and to them I ask, do you want to see me do an animated atrocity review on the Powerpuff Girls See Me Feel Me Know Me? The writers have to get their story straight before they fill it with musical numbers, is what I'm saying. And this episode clearly knows what story it wants to tell. The musical numbers are used to drive home emotion, one of the best uses for musical numbers in an episode. And while we're talking about production values, I'd say next to Princess Twilight Sparkle, this episode probably has the best animation in the whole show. I mean, just look at that. I don't think it's just inspired by Disney, I think it belongs in Disney. I mean, this episode at times is breathtaking to look at. It's also funny. I mean, you can't have Weird Al in an episode and not have it funny. And if you manage it somehow, I'm going to smack you. The episode is also emotional. Yeah, there are some very serious emotions in this episode, and in such a way that only this show could muster.
Put away my party cannon. I deflated all my balloons.
For all intents and purposes, that should be a parody on Mad TV, but the music and voice acting work in such a way that it brings in seriousness that only these characters can muster. So, why didn't I give this episode a platinum rating while reviewing it? Mostly because I was still afraid that I was being too nice. Something that I'm not exactly afraid of anymore. And going forward, I'm going to call Season 4 my favorite season so far. You know, unless something really very bad happens.
There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill. Who's taking me to preschool?
Yeah, in a minute, Olga.
No, I'm Helga, Dad. Helga.
Hey, if it isn't my least favorite admirable animation review. And that's not because I don't like the episode. It's because the review doesn't even clock out to 4 minutes, with large chunks of the episode. and the episode is 22 minutes long. Maybe that's because this is another uncomfortable kind of episode, but in a personal way. But we're not here to talk about that. Besides Avatar, Hey Arnold is my favorite Nicktoon. It took slice of life stories and really delved into the deeper, more emotional side of life. And needless to say, this won't be the last time I'm going to talk about Hey Arnold. There are 2 other admirable animation episodes off the top of my head, and personally I can't wait to talk about them. And I'm definitely going to have fun talking about Nickelodeon censors when I get to Pigeon Man. Look it up if you got the time, and learn how big of a hypocrites Nickelodeon really is, because that episode does prove that Nickelodeon is a bunch of huge lying hypocrites. I've said it before that sibling dynamics are really hard to do in animated series, or at least they seem to be. More often than not, the writers turn them into Tom and Jerry, although that does seem to be changing in recent years. Thank you, Gravity Falls. It just took us like a decade and a half to get past the Dexter's Lab dynamic. And that's when the relationship is supposed to be quote-unquote normal. The Patakis were clearly written to be dysfunctional, and once again in a realistic manner. Dysfunctional families are really nothing new in animation. I mean, The Simpsons has been doing it since when, 1989? But it's usually done cartoonish and over the top because apparently that leads to comedy. Or I guess heartwarming, aw, they really do love each other moments. You know, until you get to the next episode and they're back to square one. A lot of people have asked me what I meant when I mentioned the spin-off. Well, there was originally planned to be a spin-off series where Helga was older and her therapist was going to be one of the recurring characters. I seriously don't see why Hey Arnold didn't get their spin-off. I mean, the Rugrats got one. I don't know why Nickelodeon... Oh, that's right. Nickelodeon. The network that's using dark magic to keep SpongeBob alive and drop both the modifiers and Adventure Time. Seriously, what the hell?
There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill.
The Titans are history, Star. Your friends aren't friends anymore.
Now we get into the really obvious choices for this list. Yeah, you know it's going to be the rest of the choices on my list. The only question is which order. Friendship is a powerful thing, and to see it shattered creates some powerful emotions. When it's done wrong, it can make you feel extremely uncomfortable. When it's done right, it creates an experience that won't soon be forgotten, and I highly doubt that I'll ever forget this amazing episode. It's a turn on the It's a Wonderful Life kind of story, you know, one that doesn't make me loathe the human race. It's amazing how one little twist on an old formula can create something this inspiring and new. Once again, it's all in the characters and the delivery that make the story shine.
So, it's impossible. Good. If memory serves, we've done the impossible before.
With lesser characters or lesser writing, this kind of story could end up extremely melodramatic. There are enough quiet moments though to pull the emotions through. But to me, what stands out most in this episode is the music. I keep looking for the amazing score to this episode, but I can't seem to find it anywhere. I mean, just listen to some of these.
Cyborg! Oh, Cyborg, thank goodness you are...
And then there's one of the most triumphant lines that I've ever heard. And needless to say, this isn't the only gem from that series either. But we'll get there when we get there.
History said it disappeared, but history was wrong. There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill.
My home.
So let's talk about the second most obvious choice on this list. Before I do, did you guys see it yet? I mean, I really don't want to spoil anything here because this episode is more of an episode that you have to experience yourself for its full effect. And you've got to experience all of it. I don't think that could be said for anything else that I've reviewed. Well, it could be said about other episodes, but perhaps not as well. There are very few lines of dialogue in this episode. The entire transcript would be shorter than its segment in my script for this video. The entire episode is pure atmosphere. It's like Fantasia with a story, or multiple stories as the case is. Each one of the stories reveals more about Jack's past, as per the title of the story, and the entire product brings a new layer of tragedy to the whole show. It's the kind of episode that redefines the series, but in a subtle way. It colors it in a few more mature strokes, and single-handedly proves that Samurai Jack is one of the greatest cartoons ever made. If you watched this episode and didn't feel something, then you might want to go to your doctor and have them see if you're, still alive. Because I don't think it's possible to watch this episode and not be soaring with emotions. I could delve into the different stories here as I neglected to do in my actual review, but I just don't want to spoil it. Seeing Jack's first love interest or him interacting with his bullies or his father is just so compelling that, oops. That's about all I can tell you without delving into some absolutely serious spoilers.
There can be
Happy birthday, my son. If only I could have helped you.
Or more specifically, The Tale of Iroh. As I've established in my actual review, the other stories aren't really bad, with the exception of The Tale of Sokka, which is a bit too weak. But you can't talk about The Tales of Ba Sing Se without talking about The Tale of Iroh. They are almost entirely synonymous. Okay, that's not particularly fair. Like, at all. With the exception of The Tale of Toph and Katara, I think I reviewed them in the order of how much I liked each one. I reviewed The Tale of Toph and Katara first, only because it was the first one in the episode. With the exception of The Tale of Momo, these stories are pretty simple to talk about. I can't really give an overview without telling you the whole gist of each of the plots. I say The Tale of Momo because there's a little bit more to it than Momo runs from panthers, they get captured, and Momo saves the panthers as well as himself. If Samurai Jack was my favorite cartoon of all time, then Avatar has got to be a close second. Nickelodeon can do something right. Oh yeah, even when they do something right, they gotta do something wrong to counteract it. The only thing holding Avatar back for me is that I'm not entirely into continuous stories. I mean, if you miss one episode, you'll tend to be totally lost, and it's hard to just watch individual episodes for what they are, and not how they chain together throughout the whole series, unless it's an episode like this one here where our heroes are taking a break on their long journey. I do kind of wish that more shows would do a plot like this, you know, where a bunch of different writers all come together on one particular episode and put their own unique style into it. I mean, the only other one that I can think of is 22 short films about Springfield. But seriously, what makes this episode what it is The Tale of Iroh. We all know it. Mako did voice Iroh in this episode. In fact, he voiced Iroh for the remainder of the second season. So this wasn't made to commemorate his passing, but it's a definitely good way to pay tribute to a great voice actor. It was really sad to see him go, and not even this episode could do him justice.
There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill.
How lovely. She's becoming a garden. For making stars above, to making flowers on the earth. Now that's the mystery of life, it is.
Oh my god, it's my favorite animation of all time. Who would have guessed that it would have topped my list? Yeah, one thing that I'm not good at is hiding my favorites or least favorites of a series. And so I'm not good at removing any anticlimaxes from lists like this. I mean, if I ever did a top 10 worst SpongeBob episodes... Oh wait, that's not enough. If I ever did a top 50 worst SpongeBob episodes, you already know what my bottom 3 are because I did reviews on them. If I did a top 10 best Avatar episodes, you know my number 1 because I already told you what it is. The only way I was able to do a Samurai Jack list is because I've never said anything about that show prior to making that list. But we're not here to talk about my own failings as a critic. We're here to talk about why Last of the Star Makers is awesome. Unlike some of my other selections on this list, I feel like I know exactly what to say here. I could talk about this episode forever and would never get tired of it. My appreciation for it always seems to grow as years go on. I mean, it starts with a lost segment from Fantasia, and it goes on through the episode to make you feel the whole spectrum of emotions. You feel panic, you feel sadness, you feel triumph. Despite what I say about it, I keep looking for a cartoon or anime episode that could top Last of the Star Makers. Tales of Ba Sing Se came pretty close, but it didn't hit the perfect notes all the way through. Even the music of this episode, without the delivery, is enough to make me feel wonderful things. Whenever I hear the Last of the Star Makers theme, I feel my passion for whatever I'm doing rekindled. It prevents me from forgetting what I'm doing and what my purpose is. I've never been touched by an animation like this before. I mean, I keep looking for a new one, but I don't know if one exists. I don't know if one could exist, and if it doesn't, I really don't care. If this is my favorite animation of all time for the rest of my career, then I don't really have much to complain about, now do I? I hope you've enjoyed this rather delayed list. Things should be back to normal next week because I've decided to drop my top 11 favorite reviews from these anniversaries. Sorry to add any disappointment. Time is no man's friend, and I gotta get that Squidward torture porns video done.